Hey guys, welcome to the official European League of Football podcast. I'm your host, Nick Alfieri, aka Nauf. Today's guest just set the record for most touchdown passes in a game in European League of Football history. Jadrian Clark, the starting quarterback for the Rhein Fire. He has had a lot of experience playing football throughout Europe, most recently with stops in Vienna with the Vikings and in Hamburg with the Hamburg Sea Devils. Now he is the quarterback for the Rhein Fire. They are off to a very hot start. We talked about the sport, playing in the European League of Football, the position of quarterback, and the mentality and goals for the Rhein Fire this season. Without further ado, Jadrian Clark. Jadrian Clark, Dart Clark, the quarterback for the Rhein Fire, having a great season so far. First thing I want to ask you, man, is how was that game playing in Hamburg in front of 30,000 people?
Man, that was electric. That was crazy. That many people, that big of a stadium. The field was painted like it was a championship game or something. I mean, it was unreal. It was a whole lot of fun playing there, playing against my old team and coming out with a victory was always feels good.
Man, isn't it cool to see like where football in Europe has come? Like that game right there was such a, great example of the potential of football in Europe.
Yeah, most definitely, man. You and I played together back in the day in the old GFL, and so some of those fields and crowds were nothing compared to where it's at now. So the ELF's done a great job of taking football and putting it with an amazing stage over here.
Absolutely, man. And that's the thing, because we've known for a while that the kind of skill level and ability was really growing every single year, but to finally see it kind of getting put together like this in a real professional way is super exciting for the sport. And so it's probably just awesome for you to be smack dab in the middle of it, man.
Excited. Yeah, it's really cool to see it grow.
Yeah. So let's run it back a little bit. For those who don't know, you've had quite a few stops throughout Europe, well-traveled quarterback. Let's see, you started off Kirchdorf back in the day. Then, if I'm not mistaken, New Yorker Lions, Unicorns and Schwäbisch Hall, Hamburg Sea Devils, Lübeck, and then now the Rhein Fire. Can you kind of run me through your football journey in Europe and give me a little something that you liked from each of these stops, or something that you took away from each of these experiences? Because I imagine there's probably some similarities, but some stark differences as well. So can you kind of walk me through your football experience with all these teams?
Yeah, man, it was never my intention to play for so many teams. Obviously, COVID happened in the middle of my career, kind of threw things off. And then with the ELF starting, that changed everything. So we played together back with the Unicorns. I think what I would take away from my time there was just the family vibes and learning about what you can do with so many awesome homegrown players. I played also in Vienna. I think in Vienna I learned a little bit more about the professional side of things over here. They run it a very professional way. Hamburg caused me to really grow up in a lot of ways, and I learned, that even when you give it your all, sometimes it's not quite enough. And then, being given this opportunity with Rhein, now I feel like all of these experiences have culminated into giving me the perfect timing to be where I'm at now, with having the amazing coaching staff here, having the amazing O-line, having the amazing receivers. Maybe if I hadn't had this journeyman career, I wouldn't have been so ready for the opportunity that I have now. So it kind of all worked out, and I'm really happy where I'm at now.
Yeah, man, exactly. I mean, you've kind of seen a little bit of it all, and it's probably prepared you in many different ways, having so many different experiences and getting the real ins and outs of being a quarterback in Europe and living in different places, whether it's a small town or a big city. And yeah, man, that's probably been a big aid for you. So now you guys sitting at the top of the ELF, a lot of people would call you probably the front runners, the Rhein Fire. You guys are 3-0 right now, putting up some big wins. You, for those who don't know, just set the European League of Football all-time passing touchdowns in a game. 8 touchdown passes. Walk me through a little bit of kind of what's your mentality, what's your mindset in a game like this? Were you really feeling like, oh, damn, I'm like, this is 4 touchdown passes, 5, 6 in the first half, like I'm really on a roll here? Or is it something that you're not even really thinking about?
Yeah, normally I would say I wouldn't think about it at all, but the third string quarterback, Jan, came up to me after the 6th one right before the half next to Weidinger, and he's like, that's 6, man. You might break the record today. Weidinger turned around and said, shut up, don't worry about stats. But I was like, hey, coach, it really might be that day. And we just kind of laughed about it. So I mean, sometimes when you have that many touchdowns, it's like so many things have to go right. I mean, obviously I was feeling really well. The O-line was blocking great. Receivers were playing their butt off. But, I mean, we even got stuffed a few times on the goal line. If we had ran the ball a little better down there, we would have just ran it in. So a lot of that is out of your control, and stats aren't what matters. I mean, it's really cool to have those records, but to get a win against a really tough conference opponent was way more important than anything.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, but it's definitely cool to have that little notch in the belt, and it looks pretty cool, man. So congrats on that.
Thank you.
You touched on having Coach Weidinger as your guys' offensive coordinator now, who I believe he was Coach of the Year for the league last year. How has that been, having kind of such an experienced and talented OC, having a relationship with him? Because, you know, the quarterback OC play caller relationship is incredibly important. How has that experience been for you so far this year?
Yeah, he's like the most relaxed, chill coach I've ever had in my life. And I mean, you know me pretty well. I'm a pretty intense person. So I think it's been nice to level me out a little bit. And his experience is unlike anything I've ever been around. He was in the NFL for, I think, 10 seasons or so. And he still has film of when he was with the Bucs running all of these same plays. So you can't argue with the scheme. It's on film, being run perfectly by the best guys in the world doing it. So we just do our best to emulate that and go out and execute the scheme to the best of our ability. And Coach Weidinger does a great job week in and week out putting together a really good game plan.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you feel that you've developed as a quarterback in these last, how many seasons? I mean, what is it, 6 seasons? We've been out here for a similar amount of time, 7 years, 6 years, whatever it is. We're getting old, man. We're getting old. But, yeah, how do you feel that you've developed as a quarterback?
Yeah, a ton, man. I think my ability to move within the pocket has really gotten a lot better over the years. Yeah. I think leadership, I think knowing when and how to be hard on the guys, when to love them up, stuff like that. And just overall, every year, every game I keep playing, I feel like my knowledge of the game just keeps improving. So I've seen pretty much every look a defense can give me at this point, and I'm just able to read and react so much faster than I was a few years ago.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, you can see it too. It's pretty cool to see. What would you say, and this is probably a tough question because I'm sure there's many, what is the most important characteristic mentally for a quarterback and physically for a quarterback? Which characteristics or attributes would you say are the most important for success at the quarterback position?
Okay, so I would just say mental toughness, because I think that when things are going well, you get too much credit, and when things are going bad, you get too much blame. So being able to not get too full of yourself or not get too down when that praise or criticism comes, just keep riding the wave and just stay balanced and stay tough no matter what's happening. And then physically, I think being tall, strong, but also being able to throw accurately. So, I mean, obviously you got to have a great arm, but I think accuracy is the most important over anything for a quarterback, decision-making, and toughness. So those are the things that I look for to really set quarterback apart.
Yep. I like that. Is there a quarterback in the NFL that you have admired or kind of try to not necessarily model your game off of, but say, hey, I like how this dude plays, maybe I can pull something from there? Is there a quarterback you kind of look up to?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was born in Indianapolis, loved Peyton Manning growing up. When he retired, I kind of switched over to being a little bit of a Brady fan. He ended up going to Tampa, hometown team, and I grew up in Tampa. And so Peyton Manning was the sheriff, the ultimate guy that always gets you in the right play. I think Tom Brady was just he's like a robot. He just does everything perfectly, checks the ball down, doesn't take sacks, doesn't throw interceptions. And now the last year or two, I've really started loving Aaron Rodgers. I think his throwing mechanics and his ability to extend plays and just his form he's probably the best thrower of the football of all time. So I think in the last year and a half, my mechanics have gotten even better through watching some Rodgers stuff and working with our quarterback coach here with Rhein. He does a great job. So yeah, those three.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is so fun to watch because I don't know, it looks just so effortless for him sometimes, and just kind of the way he just flicks it and just the zip on the ball is wild. And I remember actually a few years ago, you told me that you're like, watch how easy it is for Aaron Rodgers to just flick the ball and get it down on a rope somewhere. And I actually started noticing that the last few years. It's incredible, his arm talent.
Yeah, and I think he was kind of the pioneer of what a lot of modern quarterbacks are doing with their mechanics now. Yeah. We really took a deep dive into it this offseason, the quarterback coach here, And it's all about rotating and twisting and creating torque versus pushing. The old style of quarterback is more baseball, where you like push and you rip down hard. And now it's all about just pivoting off your back foot and turning hard.
Damn, that's interesting. Is there anything else you can talk about with maybe the development of the quarterback position or the mentality around it? Because, it used to be like, you cannot stray from these mechanics. Like, you have to throw like this and play like this. And now you've got guys like Mahomes who are throwing sidearm and like all sorts of stuff. Is there any other stuff in the quarterback position that you've kind of see change?
Yeah, definitely. I think historically guys wanted to only be pocket passers, and they really were throwing over the top. And now they're seeing that, be more of an artist than just a pure surgeon out there. It's nice to be able to surgeon, but you also have to make plays on the fly. I had a coach in college tell me, if you can't do what I coach you to do, you can't play for me. But if you can only do what I coach you to do, you can't play for me. So sometimes when the play breaks down, you just got to be a football player and make plays. And that's what guys like Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes do so well.
I like that, the analogy of not just being a surgeon, but also being an artist. Have like some of these inset technical skills that are, of course you need, but also the ability to create is a cool way of looking at it. I like that a lot. Staying on the quarterback topic, aside from you, what other quarterbacks in the European League of Football do you think are playing the position at a high level?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think Jeffrey sticks out to me, the Munich quarterback. He's got really good footwork, great mechanics. He goes to his reads really solid. So I think from the film I've seen, he would be the other top quarterback in the league. Connor Miller's put up really great stats, and so is the guy from the Raiders, Strong. So there's several good quarterbacks in the league this year, but Jeffries has impressed me the most out of all the other guys.
Yeah. When you look across the league as a whole, what teams are sticking out to you as, all right, these guys could be possible contenders coming down the line? Any other teams sticking out to you right now?
Yeah, I mean, Vienna's the reigning champion, so you got to start with them. They haven't lost a game since that, so they're cruising and rolling. They've got a strong roster. Stuttgart, obviously, the last 2 seasons haven't been great, but us having a history of playing for Coach Newman, you know how good of a coach he is, and they've got a really strong roster. The Raiders are also really talented. So those 3 teams, along with the 3 division opponents that we have in Paris, Frankfurt, and Hamburg, are kind of the teams that I would say are going to be really strong and probably make a run at it.
Yeah, you do. I'm really excited to kind of see how this season plays out. I mean, there are some good football teams playing in this league, and it's just like just being a fan of football and a fan of European football, it's really cool to see week after week these teams that are playing games and competing, and I'm really excited to see how it all plays out. Like I said, you guys are, kind of top dogs right now in a lot of people's minds. How do you approach this, maybe both as an individual, as a quarterback, and sort of probably one of the leaders on the team, naturally as the quarterback that you are, and as a team? How do you guys approach being in this position, sort of in this, I guess I would call it a front runner position? Because you go back, there are some times where I guess like Bill Belichick, when the Patriots were in their big run, I guess on the inside, he was able to create a culture where it really felt like everybody was against the Patriots. Like they were able to create a culture that's us versus everybody while still being the front runner favorites. Do you have anything to say about kind of the mentality of being in this position to maintain success throughout a season?
Sure. I got a couple key points for you. First, we have the most unselfish group of imports I've ever been around. This group is special, man. I mean, having Roby, who's a top-notch receiver, and then Mahangu come in, who's been a number 1 receiver everywhere he's been. Both those guys, they put their ego to the side, and they just both want to help you win. So it feels like we have 2 number 1 receivers. Then we've got 2 unbelievable American safeties that both vibe off of each other. We've got a great O-line, import guys. We've got a pass rusher. And every one of these guys has come in and humbled themselves and just been all about the team. So I think when you get the import group to play that way and not be that way, it trickles down through the whole team. Our homegrown guys are the same way. That a ton of them could be imports for other teams in the year, but they decided to stay home and play for the hometown team, which makes us so strong. So it starts with that. It's the selfishness. And then coach, kind of from the beginning of the season, our motto has been focus and finish. Those are easy things to say, but they're very hard to do. we're not going to allow all of this outside noise to distract our intention of winning the championship. And that starts week in and week out of just focusing on that opponent. If you get too big and you start worrying about the stuff they're saying on the internet, it's just going to distract you. So we're not worried about anyone that's not a part of Rhein Fire. We're just going to stay focused on us, and we're going to try to finish one game at a time, one practice at a time.
Awesome, man. I like that. You touched on a couple of your receivers, Mahongu, Roby, Nathaniel Robitaille, who we all played together with, like you said, back in the day. So you've got a few years under your belt with Roby. I'm curious. I'm honestly just personally curious about certain things of the quarterback position because, you know, it's the most difficult position to play in football, and a lot of people say if you know anything about sports, it's probably the most difficult position to play in sports. And one of the things is you have to get chemistry with your receivers, the guys that you're throwing the ball to. Is there a certain type of receiver that is easier for you to get chemistry with, a guy with a certain style? Or does it just take time no matter what?
Oh, yeah. Yes. I mean, I've played with some fast receivers, in college and in Europe that are fast, but they're hard to throw to. I've played with some guys that are slow that are hard to throw to. Roby's fast, a good route runner, but he's just really easy to tell where he's going to be. I mean, I remember the first time I ever threw with him, immediately I was like, man, I love throwing to this guy right away. So, yeah, some guys are just you naturally have a connection with and you don't. Roby's definitely a guy I have that with. Besides our two top receivers, there's also, to me, the top German receiver in the league is Harlan Kofi, and having him back last week was unbelievable. Having three top weapons, it changes everything. The first 2 weeks, you could feel the absence of not having him because teams can kind of put more attention on Roby and Mahongu, and now that we have the third guy of our three-headed monster, it's insane. So it's not just the top two guys, it's also Harlan.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting thing to be like with your position, also with a receiver, like your success depends so much on another person's performance as well. Like you can throw perfect passes, but if the guy's not on the same page as you and running good routes and catching the ball, you're not going to have any success, and vice versa. So it's a really interesting thing. One of the cool things about football, honestly, is just like how your success depends so much on the dudes next to you and the guys that you're playing with. Something I love. I'm curious, how's the import experience up in Dusseldorf? How is it? What's the day-to-day like being an import living in the big city?
It's cool, man. I now that I've lived in a big city for a couple of years now, I love it. Yeah. Where we live is a really cool location, nice modern building, right in the middle of the city. So we take public transportation or bikes around the city. We've got great meal sponsors that we can go to. We got a really nice gym. So it's all business here. I kind of miss the old GFL days some degree where we had more time to do some of the cultural stuff. I was actually, after practice last night, hanging out with our American safety, TJ. He's new to Europe, first year in Europe. And I was like, man, it's been all business since you've been here. We got to go and see like a castle or something and get you to see all the cool stuff that Germany has to offer outside of football. So hopefully on the bye week, we'll be able to do some of that. But week in and week out, it's just all business, going to practice, going to the gym, going to our meal sponsors, and having fun with the guys.
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because back in the day when it was a little less business, a little more mix between fun and business, we go on these excursions and go on these trips all the time. But now, with the ELF, it's gotten quite a bit more professional. But damn, this is why you're having 30,000 people at a regular season game, because this is like professional football. And for you guys, man, it's pretty crazy. You guys are averaging something close to 10K for home games?
Yeah, that sounds right, yeah.
Something like that? Wow. Yeah, man, so it's cool to see the evolution and where the sport's going. Where do you see football in Europe headed in 5 to 10 years?
I think it's going to become extremely professional. I think Rhein Fire is the standard that all of the teams are going to become really quickly. I think there was like 6,000 fans at the Munich Stadium and maybe at Vienna Stadium as well. So all these big cities are really starting to pop off. And I think, Coach Tomsula jokes sometimes like we're like those old NFL guys that were wearing leather helmets. Nobody gave them credit and they didn't make any money, but they were the pioneers of something really cool. So I guess that's us. We'll go down in the history books of the guys that started off this league. Hopefully guys down the line can get rich off of it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it would be cool to see this continue to grow. And I feel like in the coming years it can become, I don't know, maybe it's crazy to say like how in the States, how popular the MLS is, or we saw the growth of MLS in the States. Like maybe football can be that here in Europe, and it has that potential.
It's a perfect comparison. Yeah. When I was back home, I went to MLS game and I was like, what? Soccer's like this in America now? It's crazy.
It's growing. Like, who knows? Maybe football takes off like that in the next 10 years. And like you said, yeah, you guys are the standard right now. The ELF and the Rhein Fire are at the head of the game. So it's exciting stuff, man. And I'm excited for you personally and for the team. I'm pumped to see you guys continue to play and see how this season plays out, man. And congrats to you on the 8-touchdown performance and starting off 3-0. And good luck this weekend, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.